on the UFO Paranormal Radio Network. We delve into UFOs, abductions, ghosts, aliens, conspiracies, and cryptozoology.
And how could you ever forget about those creepy topics you won't hear on your local news?
This is where I would insert my obligatory skeptical statement. The Mind Cemetery, where the paranoia about the paranormal comes...
Whoa! Did you hear?
Listen to the Church of Mabus radio show, hosted by Jeffery Pritchett.
What do you think, Garnet? I know you've had a direct line. What do you think when it comes to the world and the corruption and the heavens?
Well, it's interesting hearing your comments about God doing things or not doing things that he should be doing, but, you know, my spirit guide, Albert, and this was all in my first book, Dancing on a Stamp. I mean, I asked him all these questions as you have, and his answer was, first of all, God or the source does not control or manipulate the events in our lives. Now, that's contrary to a lot of organized religions, and certainly my Christian Roman Catholic upbringing, where we were taught that God is always up there in the sky pulling strings, and we're like puppets at the end of his strings. But Edward says, no, that doesn't happen. God is an impartial observer, and that we came here on our own volition, our own choice. We incarnated here to learn and experience things. And so God doesn't bestow favors on us if we ask him in a nice way, and he doesn't bestow tragedies on us either, and he doesn't control things. And so whatever happens on our planet, Jeffery and WHAM, it happens because of the physical conditions on our planet and what men do, humans do, when they're running around exercising their free will and oftentimes not being able to control their negative emotions. That's where most of the strife and the conflict and the wars and the genocide and the suicides and everything else happens in our world is from people not being able to control their negative emotions, not caused by God. And furthermore, you can ask God all you want to change things on our planet. It isn't going to happen because that's not God's role. So that clearly flies in the face of a lot of Christian teachings, but that's the way it is.
Yeah, it kind of reminds me of Conversations with God by Neil Donald Walsh. He asked God a similar question, and God says that he's never, influenced anyone to do violence or wars or anything like that. It's all mankind, which is kind of depressing, sort of, as far as I guess I'm not going to get my God Batman, apparently.
well, it's depressing in a way, Jeffrey, but when you look at it, it's really the way things work here. It's like, as you make your way through life, you're trying to follow the life that you planned before you were born in your life plan. Because you don't remember that you have a life plan or what's in it, and you have free will, you're often going to stray off course. And so that's part of the challenge that we face coming here and incarnating on this planet, is to be able to try to stay on course and follow the plan that we had for ourselves beforehand. But very often we just don't make it. And the big challenge, of course, is just to when you interact with other people who have free will actions, who are in the same boat as you, who don't remember that they have a script, you don't remember what's in your script, and you have this clash of free will actions all the time, and sometimes they get out of hand, and bad things happen, and that's just the way it is, and it's not wrong. It can be frustrating to people to think that God isn't there helping us, but that's not why we came here. And before you were born, Jeffrey, you knew full well what the rules were on Earth. You don't remember that now, but you did, and you came here with full knowledge that this stuff was going to happen. You knew what Earth was all about, and you came here to learn and experience things in the environment as it is. Hopefully we can change it, but Earth is just a tough school, and there's no supreme power that's going to influence what happens on our planet. It just happens through free will actions of men and the environmental conditions on our planet and all these other factors that all play into it. So there is no savior for you, but you can pray all you want, Jeffrey, but it's not going to cause God to change anything that happens here. Not to say that prayers or thoughts are bad, because thoughts are energy, and thoughts can in fact change things, because our thoughts fan out like a wave of energy, and they affect other energy and other matter. So whether you call it prayers or positive thoughts or whatever, it can influence what happens, but it's not God that's doing it. It's you and everyone else on this planet that's doing it.
It's up to us to fix it. It's up to us to become our own superheroes and fix the problems, not waiting for someone to come from the sky to do it, which, there's a lot of things like that when it comes to that ufology and all that. Everybody's expecting some alien beings to come and, fix all our problems and give us new technology and all that good stuff. And it's the same thing, I guess, with religions. They're supposed to, their saviors come in to fix everything. And that's very similar to the whole alien ufology thing, I guess. And it's just what we've been processed and brought up in and programmed in. But I understand definitely what you're saying, and I agree with that on some level, even though it's kind of depressing. But that we have to do it. And it's kind of hard to do it when you're dealing with corrupt tyranny with drones and machine guns and God knows what else, psychopaths. But we just have to ride out the storm. So I guess, Garnet, I've had some experience with light beings. I've seen them before after I was healed from cancer and had some UFO experiences in my early 20s where I had cancer when I was 17 and my dad's death. I've seen these light beings. Do you think that's what we are when we don't have our bodies? We're beings of light?
Yeah, that's a pretty close description, Jeffrey, actually. We are beings of light, beings of energy, basically. But when we're in the spirit form, when we're in the spirit realm, we can actually, according to Albert, we can choose to appear in whatever form we want. We can be a being of light, or we can actually assume sort of a human-like appearance from one of our past lives that we happen to enjoy. So that one of my trips, the first trip to the spirit side that Albert took me on, and I'm traveling astrally, and he's an astral former as well, of course. And on the spirit side, we went into this beautiful white city called Aglaia, and we walked down the main boulevard, and there was just a whole array of people in human form, but dressed in various different attire from many different countries and eras on Earth. And it was very colorful. It was like I was in the middle of a costume parade. I asked Albert, well, what's going on? And he said, well, souls can choose to appear to others any way they want, and they can change it as often as they want. And often souls will appear, as I said, in the form of someone that they had in a past life on Earth, and they'll wear the costume and the attire and everything else that they were used to wearing. So it's quite varied. But he said that a lot of souls just choose to appear as light beings, which is inherently what we are. But the interesting thing is, no matter what the appearance is, that every soul is instantly recognized by all other souls because we each have a unique energy signature which can never be mistaken. It's always there no matter what the other appearance is. So your light beings, just people from the spirit realm who've chosen to appear to you as a light being. But in my case, Albert, my spirit guide, chose to appear to me as a homeless man, and that was just his disguise.
Cool, and thanks for that information as far as the light being thing. That resonates with me a lot, too. I think Tracy got dropped. Wham, are you still here?
Yes, I am, and I think Tracy got dropped, too. Is Joe there?
Yeah, I'm trying to. Joe, Tracy got dropped. Let me send him an IM and see what's going on, see if I can get her back. But yeah, Wham, do you have anything to add while I try to figure out how to get her back?
Well, yeah. No, I actually pretty much agree with what Garnet has been saying. I mean, I think what makes it difficult. I was raised in a particular religious configuration and got rid of that relatively early in my life. And so I haven't, in my life, actually looked that much for a superhero god. I more had trouble just even believing that anything really mattered was what my problem was. But as I've gotten older and have spiritually developed and had my own experiences and spiritually grown and stuff, I think that what makes it difficult for me is not that I'm looking to be saved or that even I really believe the world itself needs to be saved in the kind of classic sense. It's that I'm very aware of the oneness that all of us share. I'm very tuned into that. I feel it. So when something difficult happens, or I hear about something difficult happening, it's not happening in some faraway place. It's happening also to me. It's happening as part of, our collective body and our collective consciousness. And I'm aware on some level of all the pain of individuals who are caught in situations where they don't, because right when you're in the middle of a difficult situation, you don't necessarily have the ability to tune in to the bigger picture. And so it's like I feel that. I feel that terror. I'm a little bit too much of an empath, And so what really happens with me is that I don't get overwhelmed by terror. I'm not really afraid. There's Tracy.
Hey,
yes,
Tracy.
I'm back. Thank you.
Yeah.
We'll
Technical difficulties, but I'm back.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll let Wham finish, and then we'll get to you in just a second. Okay, Wham.
Yeah. So I don't really get afraid. I don't even really get hopeless. I'm actually not hopeless because I'm not hopeless about spirit. It's just difficult sometimes, especially when I'm really aware of a lot of things going on in the world, and sometimes the things that I'm aware of are not necessarily the things in the news. You know what I mean? And it's just hard to hold that all and be aware of it and still be an embodied person here sometimes, because I'm a person and I have an ego because I'm here, and so I have to constantly sort of work at releasing my attachment, my desire to try to make everybody feel better, because that's kind of really what it's about. I wish that there's something that I could do for each and every person to help them along. And I realize that the only thing that I really can do is help myself along and help the people around me immediately along. And just in my tradition and in my spiritual practice, the rest of it I just sort of have to give it to the universe, to God, whatever you want to call it, and trusting that it knows better than I do this process of evolution. So that's sort of what I have to do with it. But as just an individual person, it can still be very painful. Today was a difficult day emotionally, not only on the news, but, I got news that another friend of mine, someone that I haven't known for a while, but that I've just recently heard about again and come in some contact with again, had a stroke and has been diagnosed with a brain tumor. And that's been like about literally the sixth person in 18 months that I've known that has happened to. And it's not even so much that it affects me personally. It's like I'm not afraid of that happening to me. If it did, it does. It's just like, wow, everything really is sort of happening right now. It's intense. It's just intense. So, anyway, this is about you. This is about alien abduction, so not about me. So I'll shut up now.
Well, it's glad to hear all these different perspectives. That's my problem. I take this stuff too personally, and I get upset about it and angry and stuff I have to work out. But nonetheless, I think talking about it like this and getting it's like a lot of the stuff Garnet said, and you just said, it's like I know it, but it's like part of me just like seems to forget it sometimes. I have to be reminded and slapped to remember. But well, Tracy, you're still with us, right?
I am.
Yep.
All right. Well, where did your UFO and alien experiences happen at first? Was it in Florida or somewhere else? If you could.
Well, no, actually, I was born and raised in Arizona, in Kingman, Arizona. So that's where they first began. Some of my very earliest childhood memories, I remember watching them through my bedroom window at night. Seeing like a UFO in the sky, like coming down and getting bigger and brighter and then going back real fast and getting smaller, like zooming away, is one of my earliest childhood memories. And there was an incident in 1975 where my entire family had an experience along the highway in just a little bit outside of Wickenburg, Arizona. And that was something that I didn't personally remember all the details of until much later in my early 20s when I underwent some hypnotic regression. The full memory of that event came through.
And what kind of beings were they? Were they the gray type beings or different types? What did they look like?
No, they were the gray type beings from what I remembered through the hypnotic regression. The ones with the big black eyes and the large heads. Your typical, alien like you see on the cover of the book Communion kind of alien.
I've seen light beings and beings that were very serpentine-like, and they kind of seem like holograms, but I've never seen those grays ever. Not to say, apparently people are seeing them, but for some reason I've never seen them. Garnet, what do you think about those gray-type beings? What are they? What's your interpretation of those? They're very common as far as experiences go, but what do you think those are?
Well, they're one of the alien races from a different planet in our galaxy that have been visiting Earth since day one for eons. And I actually got a chance to with my spirit guide Albert, to make an astral trip into one of their spacecrafts, which was hovering way above orbiting above Earth. And it was very much of a classic kind of a disc-like vessel, and we went and visited the inside, the creatures inside, and they were the Greys, the humanoid looking, gray people. I had a short conversation with them. It was, all by telepathy, and they basically said that their race has been, as I say, observing Earth for eons, and they're just one of there's many different races who all look different that have been observing Earth for a long time. Some of them have arrived only recently. There's been a big influence of other races monitoring Earth ever since we first split the atom in World War II. That was sort of a trigger for a lot of them to say, hey, we better head, over to Earth and see what those humans are up to. But the Greys that I saw, they've been around forever. They were instrumental in helping to seed life on our planet way back when, including seeding of human life. And they've been watching and observing us, and they've been helping us whenever they can. Jeffrey, they've been, through inspirational thoughts and sometimes sort of practical hands-on information. They've been helping us sort of, from the time we were hunter-gatherers, they gave us some agricultural tools to learn how to be, farmers and grow things for our benefit. They've helped us through many technological quantum leaps, by sending inspirational thoughts to some of the people who invented some of the major inventions of our time, like Edison and Graham Bell and, the guy who invented the steam engine and so on. And so they have been helping us every way they can. What they can't do, Jeffrey, is they can't directly sort of interfere with what's happening with humans. So they can't use their advanced technology to destroy all of our weapons of mass destruction or to get rid of the bad guys on their planet or anything like that. That would be very easy, and they can certainly do that, but they are not allowed to do that. It's called a directive of non-interference. And so they have to sort of passively watch what's going on, try to coax us in the right direction, try to help us wherever they can, but they can't just make our lives better. And so they're sitting there watching when we have wars and so on, and we kill each other. They're sort of, shaking their heads saying, I don't know why these humans do that. I wish we could stop it. But the best we can do is to try to influence them in the ways that we're allowed to do so. So, yeah, the Greys are very much, they've been here for a long time. They're very much still monitoring us, and they will continue to do so, until we take the next step and advance up the evolutionary ladder, or until we destroy ourselves, I guess. So, yep, I did have a short visit with them.
Out on the CERN thing, right? The Hadron Collider.
I beg your pardon?
Yeah, that's pretty silly of us to mess with that kind of technology.
The Hadron Collider, that thing they're messing around with, trying to do the Big Bang and all that, CERN.
The
yeah, I didn't talk to them about that.
But that seems like something dangerous they shouldn't be messing with, something that can rip a hole in the fabric of space and create a black hole.
Yeah. Well, yeah. The one thing they can do is that if we unleash our technology, whether it be that collider or whatever, to the point where we can destroy our whole planet, they can step in. But short of that,
they should intervene. I think at that point.
Yeah, and they will, but we're not at that stage yet. And then, so, the skirmishes we have, like World War I, World War II, Vietnam War, and all the terrorist activities, that's not endangering our planet right now. I mean, it might develop to that, but right now it's not, so they have to sort of stay out of the fray.
I think they concern themselves more with global threats.
Yeah, exactly, yeah. Something that might destroy our planet. So we're not there yet. Hopefully we'll never get there.
Well, what do you think, Garnet, about people that have very fearful experiences with some of the greys? I've interviewed Travis Walton and Thomas Reed and asked them, and they said if it wasn't for the human fear that it'd be a walk in the park. Do you think that there maybe are some gray beings that are negative and doing negative stuff to us, or do you think that's just like human fear?
I think it's just human fear. I think it's the person's reaction to the encounter, which is understandable. I asked Albert that. He said that none of the alien races that are visiting and monitoring Earth are malevolent. They're all trying to do their best for us. They have no evil intentions. Sometimes some of the things they do may seem to be harmful to the people they interact with. That's because it's just their motives aren't really fully understood. Albert says they're all benevolent. They're not here to harm us in any way, and they try not to. But sometimes their actions are maybe perhaps a bit crude to us, and it comes out the wrong way. But it's just from their lack of total empathy with the human psyche, I guess. But they're benevolent.
I recently came across David Huggins. I don't know if you're all familiar with him, but there's a book. I'd heard of him before, but he's from Georgia. There's a book called Love in an Alien Purgatory, The Life and Fantastic Art of David Huggins by Farah Yardoza. I probably said her name wrong, but I believe she's over in Israel, or no, I'm not sure. I think she's Jewish. I may be wrong. But nonetheless, on Facebook, somebody was sharing a picture of one of his paintings, and it was of a gray-type alien with big boobs. And I was like, whoa, I got to check this guy out. And anyway, I got the book, and I'm looking at this book, and it's filled with his artwork and the story of what happened to him. And he's got like one of those gray aliens is like shagging him, and there's a praying mantis watching one of the artwork. I'm kind of curious. Well, let me ask Tracy this first, and then we'll get Garnet's view on it. You've had some experiences with like a hybrid type child, haven't you, Tracy? And how did that happen?
Yes.
Something
yes, I have.
happened to make a hybrid child? What can you tell us about that?
Well, many years ago, over 20-something years ago, back in the early 90s, I had an experience where it was one of those middle-of-the-night experiences where you kind of wake up in your bed and you see figures around your bed. And I happened to notice that one was one of the taller type of aliens, and there were 3 of the shorter gray-type beings around the bed, as well as this much shorter, what appeared to be a hybrid being that appeared to be part human and part alien, like gray hybrid type of a being. And they were communicating to me telepathically that to love this child, that it was my child.
Okay.
And so that was quite interesting to me because, as I stared at this little being, I could see some similarities in the features, even though the eyes were still large and the head was still large. The little bit of hair that it did have was kind of like my color and texture, and the eye color wasn't the same big black eyes that you see generally. This one was more of a human type eye, but a larger and similar shape as the alien eye, but it was the same color as mine. And so I thought that was quite interesting. Now that being, if he still exists somewhere in the universe, and I wanted to say that it was a male. It appeared to me to be male.
My question
and at that time about 4, maybe a 3-4-year-old toddler. That was according to the size. But maybe it was older because being partially alien, it may have been just smaller in stature.
Well, how do you think that happened? It wasn't alien intercourse, was it? It was like kind of a test?
Well, no, actually. From the time that I did have my first encounter there along the highway, I feel like I was probably at that time tagged and then monitored for my entire life throughout my childhood, adolescence, teens, young 20s. I always had like these reoccurring experiences, a lot of sightings, and a lot of those like little portions of missing time and things like that. And so it could have very well happened during an earlier abduction where they maybe have been taking some eggs from my body to clone or reproduce these hybrids.
Juicy fruit gum with Starburst flavor?
Yeah, okay, that's what I was figuring. But it just surprised me in these Huggins books that they're actually, like, shagging in these paintings. I was just like, my mouth fell open. I was like, whoa. Like, hey, I might need to sign up for that program.
Well,
I think that does happen too, but I would think that more happens to men.
Yeah, well, hey.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. I mean, it's like I've known known a couple of, more than a couple of female abductees that have reported similar kinds of experiences. But I think, I mean, the way that one of them described it to me was that, she felt like she had this experience, but then when she thought about it later, she realized that the experience, now this may not be true for everybody, but she realized the experience, at least for her, that it was probably something that was kind of a cover memory that was given to her as a kind of way of them explaining what they were doing or something. You know, it was they do that. They were afraid of perhaps the trauma of just maybe, taking an ovum, and so they triggered something in her mind that gave her this experience. I mean, it's real easy for humans to fantasize about those kinds of things. So, we do that without any kind of human, alien prodding at all. So,
that is common amongst the abductees that were given what's known as a screen memory,
right,
or
exactly.
something like a scenario to cover up the truth of what happened to us. So it's kind of like a protection of a sort for us mentally.
Right.
Well, what do you think, Garnet, about this whole scenario?
Well, I did ask Albert about that. He said, yeah, of course, that they do abduct people, and they do so for benevolent purposes. They're not trying to harm anyone, and that they oftentimes implant communication devices so they can better monitor what's going on. Sometimes they will do biological examinations to detect sort of the changes in our body structure. From day one, right through to the modern times, they've been monitoring that. He didn't mention anything about hybrid children. That's certainly a possibility. But in fact, the next time I contact him, I'm going to ask him about that. But it sounds like what Tracy's saying is very for sure. I know it's happened to her and to other people. I've read about them, and I don't doubt for a second that all this was very true, and that it's great, Tracy, that you finally got your memory unraveled through the hypnotic session, because it does seem like they do plant the screen cover on people, and you have to get into hypnosis to get there. And in fact, I don't know if you're familiar with Dolores Cannon, Tracy. She's
yes.
I am.
Yes,
and
I've read a lot of her work and watched a lot of her videos.
She founded my publishing company, Ozark Mountain Publishing, and of course she has done thousands and thousands of hypnotic sessions, and she's uncovered a lot of people who have had abductions and other encounters with aliens, and so it all plays into the whole picture, which is what you've experienced, Tracy.
Yes,
God rest her soul. She passed away not too long ago.
Last October.
Yeah.
A lot of the people like myself who had the experience, we get these broken memories and these flashes, and it's kind of confusing and jumbled, and you want to know what happened to you. And so then you start to research and dig and look for answers, and you start finding other people that the same thing has happened to, and you dig a little bit deeper, and then you say, well, okay, I'm going to have hypnotic regression because I want to know the whole story about what actually went down at that time.
I've had a bunch of experiences where I've seen UFOs over treetop level with multiple witnesses and by myself, and I've wondered if I've been taken. But if I have, I swear I don't remember anything. I had some, when I did DMT before, and I had some rememberings, but I wasn't sure if that was something that actually happened to me or was something that, that was from that ayahuasca-type situation. It's usually on the Amazon.
It's funny that you bring that up because I think a lot of people do experience interdimensional type visitors, and they have a similar experience to people who are having alien visitors. And maybe some of these aliens are actually visiting us as well. Besides the physical visits, they're also visiting us interdimensionally.
Yeah, like astrally, which is what Garnet is talking about a lot, traveling out of body, which I firmly believe when I sleep that I probably go and meet with them. And, before I came here, there was a point to where I saw UFOs at such level, I was like, my God, I think I'm an alien. Why are they so attracted to my house? And I had friends say, Jeffrey, we were standing outside looking at these like weird orbs in the sky that were different colors, red and blue, and they were moving around like really weird over the house. And I remember a friend named Rich, he was like, Jeffrey, you're attracting them here. I was just, at that time it scared the hell out of me, but I think actually a lot of things have happened with me. I'm not sure if I've ever been taken physically, but I might have, and I just don't remember a damn thing.
I feel that once they do take you physically, they put some kind of a tracking device in you, and then they are kind of attracted to you and can find you at any time, no matter where you are.
Well, mine is kind of tethered off, and I read that about yours, too, that yours is kind of tethered off. I've had some UFO experiences where I've seen things, but I haven't seen any beings in a very, very long time. And there's a friend of mine, Paul Thimer, that's in the chat room tonight, Blaze Youngblood. When I lived with him in Georgia, he would have dreams of me being taken out the window by aliens and wake up and be like, what the hell? But, so there's definitely... maybe astral, physical, I don't know. It's possible, but like I said, I don't know completely. Mm-hmm. But, so Garnet, why is his name Albert? It seems kind of, he used to be an Earth dude. I'm trying to adjust to the Albert name.
Yeah, well, he did. He's a very an advanced soul, but he's lived many lives on Earth, Jeffrey, and in fact, he tells me that he and I lived a few lives together before, which I don't remember. But so he's been around for a long time, and I'm not sure why he chose that name. That's when he first identified himself to me. He said, "My name is Albert," so that he's been Albert to me ever since. But I expect that he may have had the name Albert in one of his previous lives on Earth. But that's who he is, and so just like his appearance, he can choose to appear any way he wants. He always appears as a homeless man to me, and he's assumed the name Albert, and maybe in other places to other people he may be a different person, but that's who he is to me, Jeffrey.
What do you think, Wham? Are your experiences astral or actual physical?
Well, I'll be honest. At this point in my life, I have trouble distinguishing between the two. Seriously, it's very odd. I've had to really think.
I understand.
I've had to really rethink what I think I mean by astral, because I think sometimes I know I have, and I think other people sort of have used that term as kind of a throwaway term to describe a variety of experiences in which our consciousness seems to be removed from what we think our body is, like it's its own thing. And I think that it's actually a lot of things, because I've been in a lot of circumstances where I felt like I was in a very physical realm, that it was every bit as physical as this realm here, and then all of a sudden I woke up. And I knew on some level it wasn't a dream, that I've even had really weird experiences, sort of, I don't know exactly what to call them, experiences where I know that I've sort of walked through a portal, where all of a sudden I've walked into a probable reality that's right next to the one I was in, and I'm not in the old one anymore.
Yeah, that's part of the thing that is confusing.
Yeah, it's and I don't return to it. I mean, there are times when my life has forked in that way, and so I don't really think of my waking and my dreaming lives as being separate anymore. I know that's probably difficult for some people to understand, but I had an experience when I was coming home from work today. One of the places where I work is I'm a data cruncher for one of the premier retreat resorts in the country. I mean, literally, we get like all the really big name people. So this weekend is the first Pema Chodron weekend. I don't know if you know who Pema Chodron is, but she's one of the most famous like Buddhist teachers in the world. And she's there right now. And, so of course, as I was leaving just as everybody was coming to her retreat. So I was sort of like getting out of the way of the crowd, the 600 people that are descending upon the place, tonight. And it was one of those experiences where, all of these people are coming in and they're going to do this intense Buddhist stuff, and they're all being very Buddhist-like in a very American kind of way, the sort of quintessential, I think of it as sort of yoga woo-woo people, sort of, but they're sincere, they're sincere and they're searching, and then all of this stuff that's going on in the world at the same time. And this is happening in, this certain place in the Hudson Valley. And it's all happening at once. It's all one reality. And yet everybody who's in all of these different places acts like they're in different worlds, which in a way they sort of are too, but we're all together. And I realized this is all a dream. This is all a dream. It's a good dream, a bad dream. It's all a dream. It's no different than when I go to sleep at night and think I go somewhere else, there's no somewhere else. It's all together somehow. And I do think that some of my, I guess you would call them alien encounters, I've come to the conclusion for myself that I know that there are people here that are fully what we call human. But I've come to the conclusion that I myself, personally, am not fully human. And that's been confirmed, actually, by some strange information that has just filtered to me from my father's side of the family. That there was this tradition on my father's side of the family coming from the Native American part of his family, that there were some of our ancestors were not from here. And that put them in a kind of interesting position with the rest of their people, And so that was like, oh, well, that explains that,
What Native American branch are you speaking of? What tribe is that?
It's mixed. My grandfather came off the Cherokee Reservation in Oklahoma, and at the time when he left, they were mixed. So, that was a place where a lot of different nations sort of got dumped. So from what we can tell, it's a mix of Cherokee, Delaware, and Osage.
That's interesting because I also have the Cherokee blood, and has that same kind of thing been telepathically communicated to me by the aliens, that I was compatible with them because in my DNA somewhere along the line, I was part alien like them.
They were not fully human. Not fully
human.
Not fully human.
That there's something in the DNA strand that goes back through that Native American Cherokee bloodline.
Yeah.
Got Cherokee here. Cherokee in the house. Oh, yeah.
Cherokee in the house.
So many of us are Cherokee, and that's interesting, I think.
Well, and a lot of other things as well. I don't think that the Cherokee are the only ones, but
UFO Paranormal Radio Network. We delve into UFOs, abductions, ghosts, aliens, conspiracies, and cryptozoology.
And how could you ever forget about those creepy topics you won't hear on your local news?
This is where I would insert my obligatory skeptical statement. The Mind Cemetery, where the paranoia about the paranormal comes.
Whoa! Did you hear?
Listen to the Church of Mabus radio show, hosted by Jeffery Pritchett.
7.
also can run back through the Celtic people.
Yeah, Celtic people. That's what John Keel was saying. He was saying that he noticed that a very high percentage of individuals who claimed these kinds of experiences on an ongoing basis had a lot of Celtic or native bloodlines.
Or a combination of both.
Yeah.
Nothing like those Irish Indians.
But, I don't think it's exclusive. I mean, I don't think that's exclusive at all. I mean, I've come to the conclusion for myself that that this planet, as a living being, because I experience the planet itself as a living being, that this planet as a living being is one of many living beings who has chosen to sort of sponsor this kind of life, and sometimes it's a pain in the butt for it too, because it has its own agenda, its own growth, its own purpose, and we're some of us are part of it, and some of us are only sort of part of it, So it's kind of like agreeing to have guests and then realizing that, oh my God, what did I agree to?
Exactly.
Well,
the planet is probably getting pretty tired of the way that humanity has been treating her lately.
Yeah. But I've no doubt she'll figure it out. So I trust her with regard to that.
What do you think, Garnet, about multidimensional realities? Do you think there's a bunch of them all around us at once, as far as other multidimensional realms? That, I always hear people say that you could, like, for instance, let's say in one realm I just won the lottery, and another one I just went homeless, and another one I just, shagged a beautiful supermodel. Do you think they're spinning off in different realities like that, or is it more simplistic?
No, there are many different dimensions. Just almost countless dimensions, according to Albert. And so some people can sort of travel freely between the dimensions, and some of the alien races can actually travel between the dimensions as well, in addition to traveling among the stars on our dense plane. But one of the exciting things that happened to me, which really proved it to me, Jeffrey, was that, and I described this in my second book, Dancing Forever with Spirit, was that Albert actually took me to Earth in a higher dimension. What some people refer to as the New Earth. And I was there. I went for a visit. I was an astroform, and he took me there. And there we met with a civilization that was very idyllic, in how they operated. I mean, there was no negative emotions, no crime, no conflict. They had basically learned how to slow down the aging process, so they all lived for a few hundred years. They had learned how to heal their bodies when they suffered trauma, and they had learned how to ward off most diseases. So they had a very nice life that was without any sort of a pain or suffering or disease. And they lived in harmony with Mother Earth. They didn't pollute her in any way. They lived in harmony with the other creatures on the planet. They didn't kill animals or consume their flesh, and they lived off of a liquid. It looked to me like a smoothie that was made from plant material, and that totally nourished them. So they had a very idyllic life, and that civilization had actually done a mass ascension from our Earth on this dense plane a long time ago. They had once lived in a village in Central America, what is now Central America, and they had to do a mass ascension up to the higher Earth in the higher dimension to get rid of or to escape from an encroaching barbarian army that was approaching their territory. These were very warlike people who were intent on subjugating them, and so they learned with the help of spirit. The leaders are very spiritually aware. They learned how to do a mass ascension. So one moment they're here in the dense Earth, and next moment they're way up high in a Earth in a higher dimension. So that's the place that we all should aspire to get to. And in order to do that, we have to raise our vibrations. We have to raise our vibrations enough to match the vibrations of the new Earth, the higher vibrations. And the only way we can do that is by discarding our negative emotions and fully embracing love and compassion. So every one of us has the capability of actually getting there in human form. We just have to learn how to increase our vibrations. So, yeah, there are different dimensions. That was just one of them. I'm sure that Earth exists in thousands, millions of different dimensions. This was Earth in a higher one, and it was really quite amazing, quite beautiful.
Do you think diet's a part of that too, like the vegetarian thing and all that, which I'm not, of course, but I'm just kind of curious. Do you think that's one of the main ways to accelerate your energy, is eating fruits and vegetables and all that, and staying away?
Yes, Albert. I did ask Albert that. He said that it's more difficult if we consume animal flesh. More difficult for us to raise our vibrations. Not impossible, but it's more difficult. So if we want to speed up the process, obviously stopping eating animal flesh and eating only vegetables will get us on a faster track, up the vibrational ladder. But what he said, the other interesting thing is that as we raise our vibrations, our bodies will naturally feel uncomfortable about eating animal flesh. And so if we get up there high enough, we will actually stop eating animal flesh because it makes us feel unwell. And so it's a sort of a double-edged sword. We can get there faster by cutting it out, but if we raise our vibrations enough, we'll just stop eating it naturally because we don't feel right when we eat it.
Yeah, I mean, I just stopped. Oh, it's been 20 years now. I just stopped eating like pork and beef. It just went away.
Absolutely.
Just went away.
One of the things that this has become a big thing for me is the whole diet situation. As I've become about 60 pounds thinner over the last year through doing different detoxing and different kinds of diets. And yes, I think absolutely that doing high concentrates of alkaline-rich foods like green foods and greens is a big part of detoxing.
All right, well, we got to go on break right now, and we'll come back and we'll get back on that subject. I'm trying to eat more healthy stuff, and I'm sure I could use a huge enema in that department. But
well, the healthier you eat, the healthier you want to eat.
That's true.
Salads and stuff.
Oh, it's not just salads.
Baby steps.
Domino's pizza. Oh yeah.
Listen, if salads are done right, they're amazing.
Yeah, there are some good ones. Do you eat chicken at all? You just totally...
Oh, yeah. I eat a little chicken. I eat, what I do is I eat a little bit of, like, chicken and fish, and occasionally in the winter time I will eat lamb, because we do have lamb up here, like local lamb, but it's limited, and it's not often.
Okay. Well, we'll get back on that subject when we come back. Then I want to ask Tracy about her Men in Black experience, and then get into some more topics with Garnet. We'll be back in about 8 minutes. You're listening to the Church of Mabus radio show, and we'll be back very shortly. Garnet and Tracy.
You mean I could go mad?
I am
I'm shaking.
the Church of Mabus.
Oh, I'm stoked. I'm ready. This is awesome.
Welcome back to the Church of Mabus radio show. We got Garnet Schulhauser here and Tracy Wardlaw and WHAM. Talking about getting healthier, eating and diet to ascend to the heavenlies. That's right. And on break, I was eating M&M peanut butter chocolate.
Yeah, and during the break, I was sharing with Jeffery some important information about when you are dieting, it's more important to, rather than what you're depriving yourself or taking away from yourself, is what you're giving yourself. You know, the more good you give, the less room you have for the bad. And the more good that you eat, then the more your taste buds do change for that kind of food, and then that becomes what you crave. So rather than focus on, I can't have this and I can't have that, let's focus on giving yourself more good, healthy things.
I like mixed nuts a lot. I just have to be careful with the salt. That's one thing that I think helped if I eat those for a snack. And my problem is I'll try to eat too many of them. Cause I love them.
That's the thing. Don't eat too many.
They're so good, though. I like pecans, too. All right, Garnet and WHAM, you back with us?
I'm here.
Okay. WHAM, are you there? Hope she didn't get dropped. Well, I'll see you in a minute. She may be still away. Let me see. Let me leave a message for Joe. Let me check Facebook too. But well, there's stories of people ascending, like that Roanoke. That was a weird story. Did they ever figure out what happened to all those people? Like, was that Roanoke, Virginia, or something, where all those people just vanished back in the day, back in the golden oldie days?
I'm not familiar with that, Jeffrey, but it could well have been a mass ascension.
Well, it's some story about some settlement in America that vanished.
The whole town disappeared.
Yeah, and they just left Roanoke written on the, or something like that. It sounds. Then there's something with the Mayans where they like they couldn't find
throughout
their body.
cultures, there are different cultures who have just disappeared like that. Also, the Anasazi Indians.
Really?
Yeah.
The Wasabi.
The whole tribe disappeared all at once.
Oh yeah, that Indian village, that Eskimo village, that disappeared at once.
Albert says it happens often, and has happened through our history. And sometimes it's a whole village, and sometimes it's just individuals who suddenly disappear.
Right.
But they've learned how to ascend up to a higher dimension. So it does happen. And the Mayans are an interesting example. That I didn't ask Albert if that had happened to them. Sounds like it probably did, because they seem to have disappeared in a hurry and with no trace left. So I think there's lots of
the Mayan people are still around. They're still around, and they have traditions about when their ancestors lived in cities. They're still around. They just left the cities, but they're still around. Now, some groups of them may have decided to disappear, but they as distinct groups of people are still around. So they do have their own traditions, though, about like aliens and all of that, which if you've read the books by Artie Six Killer Clark, she has her second whole book is just on mostly the Mayan experience of star people.
Oh, it reminds me, I had this crazy lady, I'm not going to say her name, but she was like one of the not all light workers are crazy. I think on some level, we may be all light workers on some level, but there's some that take it to an extreme to where it's just crazy woo-woo. But I recommended Artie Six Killer Clark, and she refused to listen because her name was Six Killer.
Oh, well.
So mad. I cussed her out and blocked her. Like, you idiot.
Her loss.
Yeah, I know, really. It was just ridiculous. So to beat death and ascend, I have to eat more salads. What else do I have to do?
What?
I said to beat death and ascend, I have to eat more salads.
Oh, okay. That got lost in your accent. I thought to myself, okay, I've had too much bourbon.
I was laughing when I said it. That's probably why.
No, we're from Florida. We're Southern.
Okay.
That's right. I'm from Georgia, and I got down here in Florida somehow. By a series of misfortune and events. It's like a tropical jungle down here, let me tell you. And then, of course, the state's shaped like a penis, of course. But nonetheless, Tracy's down in the longer section. I'm up in the mid.
I'm kind of in mid-shaft over here.
Okay.
I'm in the pube region. It's cooler up here, luckily. There's falling.
Yeah, you're up in the sack over there. So.
Hey, Garnet, it always comes to this at some point.
Sounds like fun.
Yeah, we get a lot of UFO activity out here, though.
Yeah, exactly.
In Florida.
Florida.
And a lot of the USOs, the ones coming in and out of the ocean, a lot of people are seeing, like especially up in the Gulf Breeze area.
Oh, I know what I wanted to ask Garnet about. These resident, what are CETACEANS? Is that like crab people? Water planet, resident. I'm having trouble saying that word from Georgia. Cetaceans.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Cetaceans. Yeah, they're like dolphins, whales. That's sort of their species. Cetaceans. Yeah.
I had a very sad thing happen this week, and last week, my Mr. Pink, my kissing fish, I think I murdered him by accident. And I've been sad about it all week. He, the filter on my 55-gallon tank was working slowly, and it's done that before, and then we fix it and everything, and it's okay, but for some reason it killed him. And it was weird because he even swam up to the top where the water was hitting, and it's like he was trying to tell me, but I had so much stuff going on. It's one of those situations, and it was terrible, Mr. Pink. And then I went to go flush him, and he wouldn't go down the toilet. It was just a nightmare. I shouldn't have put him in the toilet anyway. I put him in the lake in the backyard. That's what I should have did anyway, but I just had a long week with a crazy ex trying to take me to court, and I won and all that stuff. So it's just been a long week. But
you could be your own reality show, Jeffrey.
No, I shouldn't. I need to deal with it. But yeah, Mr. Pink, I've been very sad about Mr. Pink. I have to go to PetSmart next week and try to find a new Mr. Pink. And Mr. Blue died right after, and now there's just a Miss Blue, and I think she's mad at me. She hates me.
Did you ask Garnet your question?
What about the crab people?
Yeah.
What else can you tell us about the crab people on the water planet? That's pretty weird. As far as I've read some abduction stories where they see like dolphin people and stuff like that. So do you think there's like a level where they're like actual people, like dolphin people and stuff?
Well, the ones I saw, Jeffrey, when Albert took me to this water planet called Proteus, totally covered with oceans, no land masses at all. And there we went below the surface of the water, and there we encountered a humpback whale and a dolphin, which looked exactly like the whales and dolphins we have on our planet. And so I had a conversation with them. So they didn't look humanoid or like people in any way. They were exactly like dolphins and whales. And they told me that most of the sea life that we have on our planet originally came from their planet and was seeded by aliens who transported the sea life from Proteus to planet Earth a long time ago. And that's why, the undersea world there looked very much like what we have on Earth. And I remember snorkeling in the Caribbean and seeing the coral and the colorful fish and all the other creatures, and it looked very much like that. And that's probably because it all came from Proteus a long time ago. So these people, they were very intelligent. They communicated by telepathy, and they actually stayed in contact with their cousins on Earth. And so over those vast light-year distances, they were able to actually communicate with their cousin whales and dolphins and other creatures on Earth. And one of the things they said to me was that they felt badly about the dolphins and whales and other sea life on Earth suffering from human abuse over the centuries. The killing, the trapping, the harpooning. A lot of it's been cut back now, but there's still some of it going on. And the whales and dolphins on Earth can't understand why humans can't live in harmony with them. Like they're peace-loving creatures. They're very intelligent. They communicate with each other and obviously with their cousins on other planets. But they don't have any advanced technology. They have no weapons. They have no way of combating what humans have been doing. And they're very distressed about the way they've been treated. And so one of the messages that these two creatures on Proteus wanted me to take back to humanity, which I put in my book, was that, hey guys, why can't we live in peace and harmony? Why are you doing this to us?
Is that where do you think some of the stories of like mermaid people and there are stories in the Sumerian and Babylonian and all that of like weird fish people, and then of course you have the H.P. Lovecraft weird stuff where he talks about fish people, but that's Cthulhu and all that, but that's more of a weird fiction kind of. Well, I don't know. It might be based on some real type situations from Babylonian and Sumerian stuff, but like mermaids, that goes back for a long time, and you have to wonder if there were beings like that really existed on some level. And
that lore is kind of worldwide as well. It's not just to one particular area.
Most of the time there's some basis in reality to those legends. And I didn't ask Albert about mermaids or any of the other creatures, but he said that we've been visited by so many different alien races over the years, and those races are very different in appearance, that it's very likely that there's some truth and validity to what those legends tell us about these encounters. They probably were races from a different planet that have been, they appeared and the people saw them and recorded what they saw, drawings on cave walls and other places, and passing it down from mouth to mouth over the generations. So I don't doubt that they actually did appear on this planet. Not something that Albert told me, but I'm certainly going to ask him next time I encounter him about that, Jeffrey.
What about pets and like dogs and stuff? Is Mr. Pink going to be waiting for me in the afterlife for my dog? Do you have any info on that? As far as I always hear them read these happy stories about pets in the afterlife, and sometimes it seems kind of hard to swallow just to think
all
that
dogs go to heaven.
Yeah, and I can vouch for that, because on my first trip to the spirit side with Albert, we're traveling in astral form. I had a reunion with members of my family, deceased members of my family, my mother and father and my brother and various aunts and uncles and grandparents. They were there to greet me, sort of just to welcome me, on my first visit to the spirit side. My little dog Oscar, who had died 10 years before, he was there, and he came running out from behind the group and actually came he came to greet me, and his little tail was wagging his whole body. And I knelt down, and he licked my face, and it was just a great reunion. So yes, our pets do go to heaven. Our pets have souls, and they will be there. If you have a favorite pet, it's passed on when you cross over. I have no doubt they'll be there to greet you, Jeffrey.
That's good to know. Definitely.
Yep, but are fish in heaven in tanks or bowls, or are they free?
Well, they can appear any way they want to, and so if you're used to seeing your favorite pet fish in a bowl, that's how they will appear initially when you cross over, until you get used to the fact, and then they'll just appear any other way they want to, because they're spirits just like souls, just like everyone else, and so they will do initially what is most comforting to you, and then after that, then they can change their appearance.
Mr. Pink, I love you. Mr. Blue, I love you. So,
we can have a seance later for you, Jeffrey, and we can speak with the departed.
We could see if Mr. Pink and Mr. Blue speak.
Yeah, see if the fish want to communicate anything from the beyond.
Why didn't you fix the filter? But let me see. So Tracy, tell us about this Men in Black story. That's pretty weird.
Yeah, actually, many years ago, I was working in Florida Mall in a hair salon, and it was shortly after I had gone through some hypnotic regression and found out the truth about my own alien experiences. And I was openly sharing my experiences with some of my coworkers and some of the people that were there in the salon that day, like clients. And right about that time, a man that was in a completely black clothing with a black fedora hat came into the salon, and I was facing away from him but could see him in the reflection of the mirror, because the whole place is mirrors. And he kind of came up behind me, and he said to me, "Silver light, don't shine so bright." And I couldn't understand what that was, and when I turned around to look at him, I couldn't really look at his face for some reason. He was wearing a very shiny silver belt buckle, and that belt buckle kind of caught my attention as I turned around, and I just stared at the belt buckle for a few seconds, and then I didn't ask him any questions, and I turned back around and continued working. Later, after I had finished the client, I said something to one of my coworkers about this man that had come in, what was that guy about? Did you hear what it was that he had said to me? And none of my coworkers had even seen the man come into the salon. So they were like, "Who are you talking about?" We didn't see anybody come in. So I don't know if that was me being told to hush up about my experiences, or what that was about.
So did anything else odd accompany the seeing of this person? Around your house, any weird electromagnetic effects, or anything subsequent?
I personally experience a lot of electromagnetic effects around all different kinds of electronic devices, televisions, radios, computers. I experience that electronic buzz quite often, like with computers and radios and televisions. I kind of attribute that to probably some kind of an implant that's been left behind in my body that reacts electromagnetically to electronic devices.
Okay. But none of that necessarily increased around the time that you saw this being.
Well, I was having a lot of activity during that time, a lot of UFO experiences, a lot of sightings. I had just kind of come into clarity about the whole experience because of the hypnotic regression therapy that I had gone through, and there was a lot of activity at that time. That was in my early 20s.
So, did you feel like this entity or being was kind of negative towards you, or
I didn't?
Odd.
I didn't feel like there was any like negative or positive or anything. It felt more hypnotic. Truthfully, it felt more hypnotic because no one else having even seen or remembered the person entering the salon or saying anything to me. The fact that I wasn't able to look at the person in the face and kind of entranced by something shiny and silver during the whole experience, it kind of gave that whole hypnotic feel to it.
So, Garnet, let me ask you this. Has Albert said anything to you, or maybe you haven't asked him, I don't know, about some of the, there are people who believe that there are various forces in the world, whether they're governmental forces or personal forces or spiritual forces or other alien groups, whatever, however you want to parse that, that are concerned principally with either covering up the presence of knowledge that would help us to ascend, or are actually negative in some way. Has Albert said anything to you about these beings, or are these things coming from us in some fashion?
Well, certainly a lot of it comes from humans. Albert did say that there are no evil or malevolent beings per se on the spirit side. Like they don't exist. There's no devil. There's no hell. So there aren't any to harm anyone else, and they have no evil intentions. And then, of course, as I mentioned before, he said that the alien races that have been visiting Earth are entirely benevolent, so they have no desire to harm or to cause any conflict or any harm to humans. But humans,
yeah,
of course,
that was communicated to me as well, that they didn't wish us any harm, and that wasn't a threat.
That are there human forces that might attempt in an odd sort of way to harm the general ability of other humans to ascend?
Now, you're talking about like those powers that be, Illuminati type forces.
Whatever
Whatever they are.
Whatever, the conspiracy theories proliferate,
Exactly.
Whatever,
A lot of that's like our own egomania fear constructs, I would guess, right? That's our own ego manifestations of darkness or whatever, our own hang-ups, I guess. Not to say, I don't know that they don't exist, but I think a lot of it, or maybe so many people believing there's a devil doing all this stuff to them for so long and burning people, and it, because of it, it's created like these negative things, and they're like weird energies or something.
Yeah.
Know what I mean, Vern?
What about it, Albert? Albert. Albert, what about it? Garnet, sorry. I tried to contact Albert myself here.
I don't think that these aliens are necessarily evil or have any kind of ulterior agenda against us.
Oh, no,
If
they did, we would already be toast, don't you think?
Yeah.
No, well, that's exactly right, Tracy. And I've had other people ask me, well,
they've always been here.
That some of the races are evil and they mean us harm. If they had wanted to harm us, they could have wiped us off the face of the earth long ago. So they certainly have the capability of doing that. They're not. They don't have no evil intentions. They're here to help us. So there's no evil originating from them. The fact that there may be groups on Earth of humans who have evil intentions, I have no doubt whatsoever. I didn't talk to Albert about that, about any particular groups and what they might be trying to do. But we all know all you have to do is listen to the news every night, and you can find out all kinds of evil things that humans are inflicting on other humans. It's a human thing. It's not a alien race thing, and it's not coming from the spirit side.
Well, also, there are a lot of people who are being abducted by They claim my labs, which is the military abductions, which is similar to alien abductions, but it turns out to be our own government abducting them.
Yeah, I don't have any knowledge of that. I didn't ask Albert that. He never volunteered that, but it wouldn't surprise me.
Yeah, some people that report alien abduction also report those kind of abductions.
Yeah. Yeah, well, I know that the only experience that I had that had some of the elements of the classic abduction, and that was just, it happened later in my life, and it and the elements had to do with physical traces that were left afterwards. I came away
like
from
markings
that,
or
scars, puncture marks, weird bruises, that kind of thing. I came away from that convinced that those were not aliens. I didn't know what they were, but I thought, this is not them. I remember waking up the next morning.
As to who it was or what it was?
No, but it wasn't them. And it was funny. I woke up and I had the experience right as I was commencing writing my dissertation. My dissertation was on the alien abduction narrative in the United States, and of course it was from an academic perspective, But I was just beginning to actually write it, and there was stuff going on in my life that had nothing to do with any of that, and then I had this weird experience right in the middle of all of it, and I can remember I sat up. And it had all of there were classic earmarks, It was like I'd gone to bed with a nightgown on, and the nightgown was removed and folded up at the foot of my bed, and I never fold my clothing. In fact, I'm sort of notorious for never folding my clothing. I mean, there were just a whole lot of things,
A lot of signs.
A whole lot of signs. And I remember I sat up in bed and I looked at and I recognized the signs because I've studied this, right? And I got really angry. And I was like, listen, you're not going to, and I don't know who I was talking to, but it was just something like whatever it was. And I just
Did you feel it still there somehow?
Yeah, somehow. Yeah, I felt like a presence or like a residual kind of thing. And I was just like, listen, you will never do this again. Ever. And it hasn't. It was almost like a weird test. It was odd. And I don't have any explanation for it exactly, except that I know that it was not the normal kinds of spiritual contacts that I've had. It was something else. I have no idea whether it was government. I have no idea whether it was. There's an investigator named Paul Eno who talks about how there is this one whole set of beings, and he believes that they are connected fundamentally to humans in a certain way. They may even be thought forms in some instances, but he refers to them as parasites. And they feed off of our anger and our fear. They're kind of like a predator, but they're not the same as like ghosts or aliens or any of the things that we're talking about.
Being in that other interdimensional type category,
right? And so I mean, it's like I have these experiences sometimes, and my conscious mind doesn't really remember exactly, but I go by the feeling. And in the feeling, I was outraged, and I just it was like. The only way I can describe it is that I spiritually put my foot down, and it hasn't happened again.
Yeah.
So it almost made me wonder whether there was like something that was testing me, poking me, see how she'll react to this, and it was just weird. But anyway, that's the only experience I can that I can remember that has had a classic abduction kind of flavor to it, that it was almost like it was copying that. It was like, oh, here's this scenario. We'll use this scenario to bug her. You know, it was just weird. Anyway, who knows? But I don't. Go ahead.
One of my own most profound experiences with abduction had happened when I was pregnant with my son, who's now 21. I kind of became conscious during an abduction. And I noticed that there were 3 beings in the room with me. One had its hands over my head and touching my head. One had its hands like holding my thighs, and the other one had its hands on my stomach. And this startled me because my first reaction was that they were going to take my baby. So I kind of panicked, and I grabbed the one who had its hands on my stomach around its neck and was choking it and just yelling at it, "You can't, do this to me." And then at that moment, they kind of all just evaporated and went away, and I was there in the room thinking,
here's an energy-saving tip from Mississippi Power.
Like that. They were all beamed up or something, or
they decided they were scaring you too much or something, and
because I had become uncontrollable. A lot of times they have you like in this trance where you're completely controllable, but if you're to break free from that trance-like state, then you're stronger than they are, so they don't want to be around you at that point.
Yeah, it wasn't like that, but I mean, because I've never had any children, and I haven't had one of those any of those experiences where I felt like, like my ovum were taken or anything like that. In fact, I've always gotten the sense that, whatever all that's about, that's not what their, quote, their interest in me has been.
Yeah, I think it's different for different people.
Yeah, I agree.
Some people are wanted for certain projects, and then other people are wanted for other purposes. They're kind of studying us.
So Tracy, I was going to ask you this: do you feel that overall your experiences? How have your experiences? You said you had there was a set of experiences with your family. That your family also sort of had a group experience. Is that what you said
yes.
at the very beginning?
Yeah, when I was a small child, at about the age of 5 years old, my family did have a group experience. We were traveling from Kingman, Arizona, to Phoenix, Arizona, and along the road, just outside of the Wickenburg area, we had saw these blue lights up in the sky. And I remember my parents, doing the typical, what is that, and looking at it and watching it and everything and talking back and forth with each other about, look at these lights and everything. And I remember watching the lights growing closer and getting bigger and everything like that. And then I had a period of, like, missing memories at that time. And then the next memory was us driving away and me seeing the blue lights taking off in the distance. Well, later in the hypnotic regression, a lot came out about that particular experience, and I've written about that, where we were taken out of the car, and the craft did come and land near us in some sand dunes near the highway. And we were taken out of the car. My mother, they were doing things to her. My stepfather at the time had dentures, and they had taken his teeth out of his mouth and were looking at him and checking him out, and they had put something in my sinus cavity at that time, and they had my little brother, who at the time was about 2 years old, 2.5 years old, and they had taken some of his front teeth out too, and I think at that point they realized that they shouldn't come out, and they glued them back in with something, which was a strange memory of him having his teeth glued back in. And then we didn't really talk or anything the rest of the trip, but I remember when we did arrive back home, my father was complaining that it had taken a few hours more than normal to drive, and he was mad about that because it took too long to get, home. And then my mother had such a terrible headache that she wasn't, she was having a migraine, and my nose was bleeding profusely when we got home, and so she took me that day when we got home to the doctor, and the doctor had to cauterize my nose because it had been bleeding and bleeding for hours, and that was kind of a traumatic experience. So it kind of, the pain of that experience kind of set that memory in stone for me, you know.
So how do you think that, did this experience affect your whole family in any way?
I think that at that time that we were probably tagged and then followed, or, you know, like studied for a long period of time after that. That's kind of where it began for us. Now, we never did speak of this for many, many years, but when I did go through the hypnotic therapy and the memories started to come back to me, I contacted my stepfather and I asked him, I said, do you remember that night on the road? And he said, yes, actually, I remember seeing the lights and I remember everything being strange that night, but like not everything that you remember, but I remember that everything was very strange about that whole time. And when I asked my mom, she just doesn't want to talk about it. She just, you know, avoids the subject like it's something that's disturbing to her, or she doesn't want to talk about it at all. And so, you know, I never could get any kind of answer out of her about her experience that night.
Right.
So I don't know. I mean, my brother, of course, was too young at the time. It's one of the most powerful memories for me, and I think that it's because it was reinforced with the pain of having my nose cauterized afterward.
Right, exactly, yeah. So do you feel like these experiences overall have been a positive thing in your life? Even though I know it sounds like some of them were sort of difficult, at least. Actually,
you know, communication, life, you know, during all of these different action scenarios, I feel that has kind of opened a telepathic, ESP kind of a thing in my mind, and so that's led me to have a lot of different psychic gifts. I think that is a connection to the aliens, when they do start communicating with you telepathically, that it does open some part of you.
Mm-hmm. I mean, as your life has progressed, have you found this to be a useful thing, a good thing, or sort of a hard thing? Some people find it to be sort of a hard thing.
It can be a hard thing, and, you know, for many years it was a hard thing because you go through all the different emotions. You know, am I crazy? Did this really happen to me? You know, why did this happen to me? You ask yourself all those questions, and it is, as you're going through it, it is difficult, and there's that whole thing, too, like you're afraid to share the experience with others because you think that, you know, oh, this is going to damage my credibility. People are going to think that I'm just making something up for attention, or, you know, so there are a lot of pros and cons to it. But some of the pros are that I think it gives you a deeper understanding of life and a deeper understanding of the universe, and that we're not alone here, and maybe helps to trigger people to pursue things a little more, ask more questions, maybe become a little more spiritual.
So it's helped your spiritual growth then?
I think it has helped my spiritual growth, or at least set a catalyst for me to ask the proper questions and to go down that path so that I did become a more spiritual person.
Yeah, that seems to be a very common response, which may be the point, right?
Yeah. Well, and a large part of the message of what these aliens have telepathically communicated to people like myself is that we do need to clean up our act. We need to clean out our bodies, that we're toxic, you know, that we need to clean up our planet because it's toxic, and that spiritually we do need to raise our vibration so that we are a more valid member of the universe as a society than what we are right now.
Well, and to see ourselves that way. You know, to see ourselves that way.
You know, as humanity as a whole, we've been pretty irresponsible, I think. You know, our planet has been a planet full of very irresponsible people.
What do you think, Garnet?
I think what Tracy has learned is exactly what I've learned, is that you know, when one of my trips to the spirit side, I appeared before the Council of Wise Ones, which was a body of very advanced souls, you know, very highly evolved, and their job was to oversee all the incarnations on our planet. And one of the messages they gave to me was that, you know, look, we want you to be one of our messengers. You want to go back and tell your fellow humans that we really need to clean up our act, as Tracy said. I mean, our bodies are toxic. We pollute our planet. We abuse the other creatures. We abuse each other. And we really got to stop that, and we've got to really work hard at trying to increase our vibrations and move up the spiritual ladder before it's too late, before we destroy ourselves. Because, as they said, human civilization has reached peaks many times in the past, similar peaks like Atlantis and Lemuria and a number of others that we're not even aware of. And we were unable at those stages to control our negative emotions, and we unleashed forces that we couldn't control, and we destroyed ourselves in those civilizations. Humans did. And so now we're at the same sort of peak, similar peaks right now, and we're in the same boat where we can, if we unleash our weapons, we can destroy all life on our planet, and we've got to sort of get our act together and learn to control our negative emotions and embrace love and compassion and increase our vibrations. And that's the goal right now. And as the council said, they've increased the pace of messages they're sending to everyone on our planet and through various channels. Like Tracy, your encounters with the aliens, you're a channel for that message. You know, WHAM you are, and Jeffery you are, whether you know it or not. So many people now, people who write books, who write blogs, who host radio shows, we're all getting channeled the same message to spread the word out to our fellow humans, to try to encourage them to get our act together so that we can get over this obstacle that we're facing and move up the vibratory ladder. So, yeah, Tracy, I mean, what you're saying is totally in accord with the messages that I'm getting, and I think that WHAM.
Yeah, and I absolutely agree with you too, and the things that you're saying. As far as the emotions go, I think that, you know, that's something that the aliens find interesting about us, is that we have these wide range of emotions. You know, these negative emotions that can be very explosive, all the way to these, you know, high vibration emotions like love, and you know, they don't really experience all those extremes of emotions, which makes us, you know, see them as benevolent, because they don't have those emotional fluctuations that we have. But they're trying to get across to us that all of these emotions and all of these things that we're doing are creating a vibration, and that vibration is being sent out into the universe. And that we need to make sure that we're not sending all this negative vibration, all these negative emotions out into the universe. Because somewhere out there, they're detecting that negativity coming from us. So we need to, as a planet, focus our emotions to being more of the higher vibrations, like love and compassion.
Absolutely, and you're quite right. I mean, the negative emotions, they just stand out from our planet, and they not only affect other people on our planet adversely, but obviously are disturbing to other races. And you're quite right. Albert said that humans are sort of unique in a way, in the sense that we do have these negative emotions, fear, hate, anger, greed, and so on, which don't exist in most other races, and none of that exists on the spirit side. So Earth is a very much of a different kind of a planet, and humans are a different sort of species, and they hadn't anticipated that we would develop this way, but they're forced to allow us to develop in the way that it unfolds and has unfolded over the centuries. And unfortunately, having negative emotions is one of the things that are holding us back, and we have to sort of get rid of that before we can move up to the next stage.
You know, it's interesting. What you're saying reminds me of something that I read, and I'm going to have to like look the source up. I hate it when I like remember something and I can't remember where I remember it from. But I don't know if either of you are familiar with the Seth material, but there's in one of Jane Roberts was a trance channel who channeled an entity who referred to itself as Seth, and mostly through the 60s and early 70s, and what's interesting about the Seth material, what I have found is interesting, is that actually they did ask Seth several times very pointedly about UFO and alien experiences, because some of the people that came to Jane's class had some of those experiences. And so Seth actually says some interesting things, sort of off the cuff, about about these experiences. And one of the things that he says about human consciousness, which seems to be sort of what has been said here, is that he said he at one point says something to the effect of, human consciousness as you understand it, a sort of in its base physical state, is actually the result of a mistake. And then he says, I don't want you to think of it as like evil. It's not like that kind of a mistake. It's that the implication that then when he explained it was that when the Earth, or when human life was being considered, there was a decision that was made about a certain type of concentrated ego focus that human beings seem to have, that makes our physical life here very vivid and very real, as almost like a kind of experiment in a certain type of creativity. And the price of that was the possibility of these negative emotions that we can get caught in. And he even implies, and he just sort of brushes over it and goes on and says something else, but he kind of implies that it wasn't too clear to the consciousnesses that were in the process of, helping the human consciousness develop. It wasn't too clear that everybody was like in real agreement about that. That there was the possibility of exactly this kind of negative stuff that we experience, and that there was a concern about it. But it was decided that, it's all part of the big thing anyway, so it will work itself out. So they just decided to go along with it, and it's proven to be interesting. But it was just fascinating, because it was just sort of, it wasn't like part of a regular channeling session. It was part of a class that they had, where somebody asked a question and Seth just sort of says this off the cuff. And what you were saying sort of reminded me of that. Like, that's maybe part of what makes us unique is this particular ego focus that makes our experience so vivid and so creative and vital, and yet at the same time can create such, if you're mired in it, can create such a negative experience.
I think when they started the human experiment, they did not anticipate that we would develop in the way that we have on Earth. And but one of the things that Albert said is that when they sort of start the wheels in motion, they're bound to let it develop on its own. And they can try to influence us whatever they can, but they can't sort of stop all the bad things happening. And so they've watched this experiment develop and watched humans develop and over several civilizations that, as I mentioned, who have crashed and burned, and now they're watching us again. And but they have to sort of let it play out. It's like let life on Earth unfold as it is, even though it's not going the best way that we would have anticipated.
Right. And many believe something must be really happening big here on our planet, because right now we are somewhat surrounded by all different species of aliens, kind of here to watch the show of what are these idiot humans going to do.
Well said, Tracy.
What are these idiots?
Hey, guys and gals, we're down to the last few minutes, and I got to close this bad boy out, or bad girl. Been a great panel. Really enjoyed it. Everybody's gone with a great flow, and it was, very great. Enjoyed it a whole lot, but I want to give you guys a chance now to plug any links that you have. Garnet, is there anything you'd like to plug before we depart?
Well, I've written 2 books. The first one is Dancing on a Stamp, and the second one is Dancing Forever with Spirit, and they're both about, first of all, my dialogue and then my astral travels with my spirit guide, Albert. And you can find links to buy them on my website, which is garnetschulhauser.com. Or if you just Google Dancing on a Stamp, you'll get to my website. And so there are buy links where you can buy the book on the popular online stores. There's information about my books there. And there's also my email contact address. So if anybody wants to send a comment or a question, I'd be happy to hear from them. And I also have finished my 3rd book, which is in the process of being published. It's called Dance of Heavenly Bliss. That'll be published sometime later this year or early 2016. So I certainly encourage everyone, if they want to hear more about my adventures with Albert, to buy my books.
Excellent.
All right, Tracy, you got any links you want to plug or anything?
Sure. As a matter of fact, if anybody is interested in learning more about losing weight or any more inspirational ideas that I may have, or follow me on Facebook. And my name is Tracy Wardlaw. The last name is Wardlaw. Tracy is spelled Tracy. You can also go to my business website, and that is a website for my It Works business, and that is tracywardlaw.myitworks.com, and there you'll find a lot of products to help you get healthy and to detox.
Cool.
All right. Well, we appreciate it. It's been a great show. Remember, everybody, next Friday is Don Miguel Ruiz, New York Times best-selling author, Toltec and the four laws of the four agreements and law of attraction. It's going to be a great interview. Thanks again, Tracy and Garnet and WHAM. It's been a great show, and I've really enjoyed this panel. Everybody, I hope you have a great weekend.
And I'm going to,
for having me.
And Jeffrey, I'm going to send you a link because I got shipped to me today some socks that are made so that they are tick-proof. So I'm going to tell you
he's going to need those.
Tick-proof socks. Would you want tick-proof socks too? They're actually treated with
Definitely. I'll just check that out for sure.
with something.
All right, everybody. Thanks for listening.
Yes.
Good night.
Good night.
Bye-bye,
Good night.
everybody.